Hello and welcome to a new video. We are continuing Talos Principle 2. I looked at the Steam achievements and apparently like 54 people completed the first bridge segment, meaning that almost half of players didn't get that far and 51% of players activated the first tower. So people are getting filtered. Let's see if I get filtered. So here we are, in front of another massive structure, and one of these gateways that looks a little bit worse for wear due to all the foliage covering it. So what gimmick will we have this time? I saw a portal thing in one of those abandoned labs in the previous episode. And I guess that's what we're going to be contending with. Alright, so there's only certain surfaces that the drills work on.
I can't help but notice that many of these structures are not strictly functional. There's a sense of aesthetics, of beauty here.
Yeah.
This place might be meant to test us somehow, but perhaps there's more to it than that.
I'm gonna take the drills out. I don't know if you have to go back or if it's like, alright, now this one is doing the drilling so you can grab the other one. Is there anything you can kind of do here? Unfortunately not, but it wouldn't surprise me if there is like eventually something that does that. You know? Oh hey, here. I think I'm just ever so slightly faster than it. Someone talk to over here. Hey champ.
Everything okay?
Tell me about yourself.
Me? Well, I was born when New Jerusalem was a lot smaller than it is now. And there was a lot of work to do. I wasn't really interested in technical stuff, engineering and so on, but I was good at keeping things organized. So I got involved with the administration side of things. Making sure the scavenging teams focused on the right materials, keeping track of our energy usage, that sort of thing.
Well, you were past a...
I think we've accomplished what the founder wanted us to, and I'm proud that I helped make that happen. Byron doesn't see it that way, obviously, but I think sometimes he gets so lost in his dreams that he forgets to look at the real world.
You know, the fact that these robots do have different personalities and seem to have different personalities when they first awake kind of tells me there might be a sort of element of randomness to their software, I guess you can say. If not, like, whatever the hardware that composes their brain is. Do you consider Byron a friend?
Of course. My best friend, in fact. And someone I've worked with hundreds of times over the centuries. A good person who cares about the world and the people in it. I just also think he's wrong about everything and extremely annoying.
You're, about as far apart personality-wise as you can get. He's a adventurous sort, and you're more cautious and controlling. I like that you can disagree and still be friends. I mean, that's kind of a hallmark of a good friendship, isn't it?
The founder taught us that we must never lose track of other people's humanity, even if they disagree with us. We're all in this together, even if we can't always see eye to eye.
Well, that'd be a rather nice sentiment if disagreements didn't have real-world consequences. What do you think about the megastructure?
I don't know. It's obviously impressive, but I think we should be very careful. We're dealing with powers we don't really understand.
What do you think about that lab I found?
I think the only reason to build a lab in so remote a location is because you're trying to hide what you're doing. Or because what you're doing is dangerous.
Yeah, that seems to be it, or maybe you just want to be left alone. What does the goal mean to you?
To me, it means accepting a certain amount of humility. Our ancestors thought they could master the world with no regard for any other organisms. They failed to see themselves as part of a greater whole. I think the founder realized where they went wrong and tried to offer us a different path. A path where we have a place in this world, but the world is not ours.
I don't think that, like, being able to kind of exist in tandem with nature and being able to expand and explore are diametrically opposed. Like, even here, in this kind of area, you have these clearly artificial structures surrounded and seemingly aiding the natural environment around them. What could these puzzles mean?
Well, puzzles, or trials, as Elohim calls them, were used as part of the process that created the founder, and they're still part of how we're born. They symbolize the human ability to understand the world and solve problems. But nowadays, they don't have a practical application. They are a common motif in the arts, though. The only physically existing puzzles I can think of are in the Museum of the Simulation. So, to answer your question, no idea.
I mean, there evidently is a puzzle technology recreated there, and it seems a bit odd that there's no attempts at using some of those things in practical day-to-day life. What do you think? What do you make of the Sphinx?
Whatever that being is, it told us that we stand before the fire. That can only be a warning, and I think we should take it seriously. We don't want another New Alexandria.
That's all. I'm gonna remember if New Alexandria was a thing in Talos 1. I mean, it's pretty clearly referencing the Library of Alexandria, but I don't know, is it like the Archives, Milton, or is it something that we haven't heard about yet? World Spirit. The world spirit. What is it that drives historical progress or processes? It's easy to dismiss the idea of the great man, or the great woman for that matter, when clearly so much is determined by resource distribution, pre-existing political structures, and the randomness of the universe itself. But is there no space at all for the individual in all this? Are there not moments when, in Hegelian fashion, an individual may represent the world spirit itself? Was Napoleon history on horseback or not? Or is that itself another form of determinism? 5358. From Augustus to Napoleon, from Lincoln to Lenin, there are individuals whose actions seem to drive rather than merely be driven by history. They make bold choices, for good or ill, that transform entire societies. Or do they? We like to blame them for their failures, but are they not ultimately just the expressions of a historical moment? 5358. But if they are, where's the space for human agency? It sometimes seems to me that all of human history has been one struggle to carve out a space for free choice against the tides of history, and the heroes and tyrants, pick or choose examples as you will, are both equally a reflection of that. Our greatest goal then ought to be to extend that freedom to the maximum number of people, to become captains of our own fate, as much as that is possible in this universe. I've actually, kind of thought about this myself. It is true that, great people like, Napoleon or Lincoln or Lenin, history makers, are the product of a very complex, interconnected web of various moving parts and people. Lincoln probably wouldn't be a great, well-respected figure in history if he was born in 1432 in Mongolia somewhere. But I think the moving parts that allowed for the great historical figure kind of exist independent of them and aren't going to be, really known about without a deep dive, but the great historical figure is ultimately what does create change. I don't know, it's an interesting topic to kind of discuss and debate. The world with just the moving parts probably isn't going to, look that different tomorrow, next year, next century, without certain people who might have an idea or notion and be in the position to be able to enact on that. Founding 2. From Hypatia's Journal, Volume 1, The Founding of New Jerusalem, Day 14. Melampus and Yemo went back to the dam to get more charging equipment. They've not returned yet, which means we've stretched a little thin, since we're still posting guards at all times, but those large herbivores haven't come back yet. And at any rate, Eustathius assures us that they are non-aggressive. But it's better not to take any chances, not when there's so few of us, and there's so many of them. Athena and Cornelius and Eustathius spend most of their time drawing up plans and arguing, in a friendly manner, but arguing still. The rest of us are managing to tune them out pretty well. It's like background noise after a while. We have started construction on the first habitat. It's going to be a temporary structure for now, but we'll all be glad to get out of the rain. I wonder if, Alexandra even intended for there to be, multiple robots, or if that's just a progenitor's, plan. Or, the founder's plan, I should say. Because it does seem like they were just kind of put into the world without any, resources there's nothing pre-established outside of the dam for them to kind of live in, but maybe they were supposed to have access to all of the archive knowledge, and that became corrupted and inaccessible. In some ways, it's almost like a little microcosm of human history. At the start, everything was extremely shitty and had extreme hardships. But then over time, as more people came in and, were able to bring knowledge and investment and interest, society could stabilize where people were able to live more and more comfortably. Alright, Trevor, what do you gotta say?
So, what are you doing here, Trevor? Why are you trying to save the world? Well, look, I think humanity is awesome. I love humanity. As a species, we're great. I mean, our track record is pretty mixed, but have you seen everyone else? I mean, what did you do today, animal? Oh, I ate some leaves, sniffed my own butt, crapped myself, and went extinct. Or, I tore this other animal limb from limb, sniffed my friend's butt, crapped myself, and went extinct. They really don't do anything interesting. I mean, you don't see animals directing Big Trouble in Little China. Birds can go tweet, tweet, but it ain't exactly the White Album. I mean, they can't even make a good cheeseburger, for Christ's sakes. They have no art, no cuisine, no pleasure. Animals are nice to look at, but you wouldn't want to be one. Except maybe a cat. I could be a cat.
I was thinking that as well. Alright, disaster averted. I thought if I moved around too much I would drop down and ruin the recording. The thing is though, we have seen animals display interesting feats of intelligence. Octopi are capable of short and long-term planning. Crows have figured out that if there's a jar of water, putting solid objects that sink to the bottom will raise the water level, allowing them to drink it. Oh, jeez, I am blind. Completely fucking blind. That's not gonna do much for me. There. You know how it is, just a little bit of a gamer goof.
I keep thinking, why puzzles? Is it just their symbolic value because of our history? Because the thing about puzzles is they can be solved. But if this is about testing us, what are we being tested for? It can't just be about spatial reasoning.
Our curiosity? Our persistence?
You're assuming that this place follows a coherent logic. My impression is that it's full of contradictions.
Maybe we're in like a turbo simulation. And over here. There's that. first. Also do you. So now I shouldn't need that. I can do this. And I can connect red and blue to make green. There we go.
Good solve, 1K.
A little bit of brainstorming and asking why is it connected like this. Oh, god fucking damn it. Alright. I completely missed something. Stay there. That took longer than it should have. Part of it was me being blind as a bat, and part of it was just a little bit of...
You know something that's weird about these puzzles?
Forging.
They're not replicas of the simulation puzzles, like the ones in the museum.
Wasn't there an artist who did an exhibition a few years ago that involved new puzzles of some kind?
That was Barzai. It was called Trials of an Imagined Past. I tried to get you to come along. You thought it would be boring.
Were they similar?
No, not at all.
Was it boring?
I thought it was interesting.
Alright, that was a little bit more frustrating.
So these monuments represent each of the entities. Pandora, the Sphinx, and Prometheus.
Makes sense, I guess.
For a given value of sense.
Probably the puzzle areas I have to work with. Hold on. Oh, I see. So 2, 4, 7, 8. 2, 4. 7. 8. I'll talk to you later. First, let's see what I got here. Another spark.
Every answer leads to another question. The last answer leads to the first question.
Alright, haven't talked to you yet.
Hey, 1K.
Tell me about yourself.
I'm someone who was born a long time ago, when we couldn't afford to romanticize the past and demonize progress, when the value of human civilization was evident because it was so close to being gone. I'm someone who believes that human beings are important. Terribly, desperately important, because intelligent life is rare and precious. I suppose you could say I'm old-fashioned.
I'd argue like that's a kind of newish way of thinking, though. Like, for most of human history, it was about, like, tradition and, you know, stability, and then only a few hundred years ago the scientific method was developed, and then only, like, you know, around 200, 300 years ago, the start of the Industrial Revolution, and where we started to make some real strides in discovery. What's the role of puzzles in our culture?
When Alexandra Drennan was trying to find a way of creating true AI, she stumbled upon the idea that curiosity and playfulness are core characteristics of intelligence. So she built the simulation around a game, because playing is part of what makes us human. We also retain some of that code, as I'm sure you noticed when you were booting up. Because of that, puzzles have always been important to our culture. To me, they represent the idea that the application of reason can lead us forward. None of which explains why these puzzles are here or who built them, but I think it shows that there must be some kind of intent behind them, perhaps a test.
Maybe it's for the same thing. Maybe it's to become something even greater than human. What do you think about the megastructure?
It's a mystery. Not just because it's technologically far ahead of us, but because we genuinely don't understand its purpose. And I think that's wonderful. It's just what we needed as a civilization.
You and Alcatraz seem to have an odd friendship.
Because we disagree on just about everything, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, here's the secret. Al is honest. He believes what he believes because it seems right to him, not because it gives him power over others. I respect that. In fact, I prefer that to someone who agrees with me just because I'm one of the first companions.
Guess that's a very interesting way of viewing it. What do you make of the Sphinx?
I don't know what she is, ontologically speaking, but those questions she asked reinforce my belief that we're being tested, or perhaps analyzed.
Team Spirit. Talk to each of the members of your team. I'm just getting achievement after achievement after achievement. Alright, so hopefully this time, A, I don't goof up like a complete moron, and B, moving around isn't as precarious. Okay, we'll want something there. Alright, that's where we turn that on. It is out of reach. If I angle this right, see, as far over that way as you can get. That sends me over here, which jams that, or would I rather jam that, since I can get out whenever I wish. Interesting. That probably does that. Rescue you. And I can kind of rescue you. So now you're stuck there. With that. Rescue you. Okay, now you're out. Jammer's here. It could get that. Oh, it can move it through portals. That's actually very convenient. That. And there we go. Again, just a little bit of problem solving and trying to figure out...
Any progress on the particle clouds, Melville? It's pretty clear they're integral to how all of this functions.
I've gathered a lot of data, but I still have a lot of numbers to crunch before I can give you an answer. And I can't guarantee that my answer won't be another question. I'm glad we don't get headaches.
Just have to figure out why everything is there, like this ladder. Alright, one of these. What's the point of that? There. Oh, that gets me over here. Bottom might be one of those surfaces you can use. Actually, alright, we're traveling at least. Out you go. In fact, your buddy as well. Alright, so is this... Yes. Oh, I see, it's up there, but could two of them kind of double up? Yep. Nice, nice. Making progress, so it's pretty clear that goes there. And I'll take you with me to exchange. There. Go. And we go. Nothing more to say? Fair enough. As well as see this secret lab, maybe we'll know what the next gimmick is.
Looks like you found another lab. Wow, that's a lot bigger than I expected.
What were they doing here?
And who are they?
These two lasers cause that to spin fast. Yep. Untitled draft. Saint Edward identified the tetronimo with the tetragrammaton and the Greek word for God, because to him the mathematical properties of the tetronimo reflected God's ability to reshape the world without breaking its laws. Elohim in his desire to impose meaning on the simulation, which was his primary function as a storyteller after all, took Edwald's heretical ideas and integrated them as the sigils of his name. So those Tetris pieces. But despite all these layers of obfuscation, there's one kind of truth hidden in all this. The world really is, in a sense, made up of minute parts that can be combined and recombined without breaking the underlying laws. Everything that exists is made of the same fundamental materials, and those materials are brought into existence by the same fundamental functions of reality. And yet, the miracle of existence is that we are not all one, but in fact radically different and separate. New Alexandria, from the book Reminiscence and Regret by Eustathius. In the early days of our people, great deal of responsibility fell on my shoulders. There were a few of us, and even though we are stronger and harder than any human, we are not invincible. The world was an overgrown ruin, and our resources were extremely limited. It was a harsh time, but I felt passionate about the work, fired up by the many sacrifices that had brought us here, and from the IAN team to the people of Gehenna, whose code was part of my personality. Bit by bit, New Jerusalem grew. We had to adapt some of our plans Drennan's team had left behind. I don't think they had expected the simulation to take as long as it did, but it was all working. That's when I made a terrible mistake. Thinking it was a way of safeguarding against disaster, I proposed the creation of a second settlement, New Alexandria. As the location was far from the dam that powers New Jerusalem, I wanted to build a thermal power station that would take advantage of the local gas reservoir. However, I foolishly used geologic data from the archive, failing to account for the amount of time that has elapsed. 5 years later, this error led to an accident that leveled the settlement and killed 31 of my fellow citizens. All of my many regrets. This is the greatest. So, some of these robots just straight up fucked off and left on a pilgrimage, and at least 31 of them died in an accident. So, really, the 1,000th robot around can't be the last if the idea is really to have only 1,000 people. They have to make more because sometimes death happens, sometimes migrations happen. Failed to load profile. Eustathius never forgave himself for this mistake. He drifted away, isolated himself from everyone in New Jerusalem. But was it really his fault? Yes, he made a mistake, but why was the entire weight of New Alexandria colony placed on his shoulders? A simple process of review and discussion could have prevented the entire disaster. Doesn't that mean New Jerusalem as a whole is at fault? He did his best, I feel sorry for him, but the dead remain dead, and that has to be faced, which kind of brings up the question of, how would they make more robots? At some point they might run out of material or whatever. That might be something that they'd want to kind of safeguard and improve upon. Ethics of extinction. If a species we consider beautiful and remarkable goes extinct, we consider that a great evil. Dolphins, the sea rapists, for example, if dolphins go extinct, that's a great loss. If humanity causes dolphins to go extinct, that's a crime. But if Yersinia pestis, the bacterium that causes bubonic plague, goes extinct, is that an equally great loss? If not, why not? To nature, there's no difference. It's all just life forms. The only moral framework that allows us to choose between dolphins and the plague is a human one. What about a species going extinct without anthropogenic factors? Extinction is a norm. If one day dolphins are no longer capable of competing with other species, should we let them go extinct? When the sun finally dies and all life goes extinct, will that be a tragedy? if we can prevent it, should we? If you believe that extinction is acceptable when nature does it, but not when we do it, then you don't actually oppose extinction. You don't believe that dolphins are inherently valuable, that they deserve to live and thrive. You just oppose human control. You oppose our ability and responsibility to choose. I think it's a fact that, like, factors, things human beings have done, I guess is bigger than a normal lab. I don't know, I guess the fact there is, like, action and intent with it does kind of hit harder than mere natural selection, selecting against them. Since we are, like, the most intelligent species on the planet, we ought to be stewards of it in some regard. We ought to at least try to take care and maintain things and be aware of the consequences of our actions. That being said, would anyone really cry if the bubonic plague actually went extinct? It still exists, and it actually exists in some labs in some places. Eye of the Needle. What's that? I'm jamming that, so I don't need anything on it. In order to grab you. Okay, so the game crashed. Luckily, I was recording my desktop and not the game, so I don't think I lost any footage. But still, that's kind of annoying, because I think I was on the crux of getting it. That didn't use up any of my tokens, right? Alright, let's try to remember how I did this. Box. Don't babysit that anymore. Some miracle that works. I want my box back though. It's mine. Yep, and that's how close I was to figuring it out.
Congratulations, 1K. That was a hard one.
Well, once I figured out how to get up there, it became a bit easier. But no, man, that was a super hard puzzle. Like, only gamers with 40 trillion IQs can solve it. Puzzle number 8. Actually do the puzzle, not just flip a switch. Those. Work on solving a puzzle for more than 20 minutes. Thanks, video game. What if we need you there? Then we sever that connection. We instead do now you here. There we go. Oh my goodness, that was a brain twister. So you have to, like, you know, kind of switch between which one you're making a hole through. Alright. Oh my goodness, I mean, that puzzle kicked my butt. Let's go activate this thing. Oh man. The New Theology. From The New Theology by George Bernard Shaw. The object of the whole evolutionary process is to realize God. That is to say, instead of the old notion that creation begins with a God, a personal being who, being perfect, created something lower than himself, the aim of the new theology is to turn that process the other way, and to conceive of the force behind the universe as working up through imperfection and mistake to a perfect, organized being, having the power of fulfilling its highest purposes. In a sense, there is no God as yet achieved, but there is a force at work making God, struggling through us to become an actual organized existence, enjoying what many of us is the greatest conceivable ecstasy, the ecstasy of a brain, an intelligence, actually conscious of the whole, and with executive force capable of guiding it to a perfectly benevolent and harmonious end. That is what we are working to. From the Lives of the First Companions by Randolph, 777. After these events, Nia Niam decided to consult the writings of the ancients. But while philosophy and religion interested her, it was art in all its forms that came as a revelation. To her delight, she discovered that meaning was not something constructed purely out of logic or will, but that could also be found in stories, that even when characters and events of a story were not factual, they had a validity and weight as they somehow were real after all. She was astonished that such a profound experience was freely available to all humans, but concerned that too few took advantage of it. So she set out to enrich the inner lives of her fellow citizens by promoting the arts, starting with the legacy of Gehenna. Niam sounds nice. I would love to meet her one day. She must know more about the New Jerusalem art history than anyone. When we do, remind me to explain how to pronounce her name. The default setting language libraries is wrong. And Leviathan. From the introduction to Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes, nature, the art whereby God has made and governed the world, is by the art of man as in many other things, so in this also imitated that it can be made artificial animal. For seeing life is but the motion of the limbs, the beginning whereof is in some principle part within, which may we not say that all automata, engines that move themselves by springs and wheels as does a watch, have an artificial life? For what is a heart but a spring, and nerves but so many strings, and the joints but so many wheels, giving motion to the whole body, such as was intended by the artificer? Art goes yet further, imitating that rational and most excellent work of nature, man. For by art is created that great Leviathan called a commonwealth or state, in Latin civitas, which is but an artificial man, though of greater stature and strength than the natural, for whose protection and defense it was intended, in which by sovereignty is an artificial soul, as giving life to motion the whole. Lastly, the pacts and covenants by which parts of the body politic were at first made, set together and united, resembled that fiat, or let us make man, pronounced by God in the creation. It's obvious that Hobbes has read Stratton and is extrapolating the Talos principle to the level of the state, but unlike Stratton, all he wishes for at the end of the day is a powerful ruler to control the machine, to tell him what to do. The interesting thing, though, is a society may, be constructed for its own self-defense, but arguably regular life is also constructed for that purpose. Organisms do have defense mechanisms against anything that might go against them. They have sensory organs that allow them to perceive the world around them, or immune systems that allow them to combat disease or parasites. Meanwhile, arguably, those things do exist on the level of societies. There's obviously other nations that can go to war against them, but there's also mind viruses and dangerous memes that might destroy a society from within. So I've done all the puzzles, I might as well go around and, all the normal puzzles. I might as well go around and see what else there is to do. And see, in this heavily forested area, with natural elevations and dips that are not replicated by concrete or steel. Here's one of the special puzzles. Considering how much trouble last two gave me, I'm not keeping up hope. behind door number 1. Alright, look behind door number 2. Oh, I can pass through, but those things can't. Interesting. Ah, jeez. I can't grab that. Let's go back to door number 1 again. Nothing else I can get around with. Easy. I honestly thought this would have to come into play a bit more. Like, you know, I have to kind of do something fancy like that, but no. Another question mark. Got you over here. More reading. Or listening. A lovely surprise.
While exploring the forest, I came across a sight of primal force. A beautiful stag, standing on a hill silhouetted against the setting sun. It appeared like a messenger from some divine natural power, perhaps from Gaia herself. Even to a being such as myself, less susceptible to manipulation by instincts and hormones, it was clearly a moment of revelation. In such moments, we are told to avert our eyes. But what if we do not? What will we discover if we look more closely? If we could speak to the stag, what wisdom would it have to offer? The answer is none. The stag is an animal of overwhelming stupidity, driven only by fear, hunger, and lust. There is no abyss for us to plunge into behind this revelation.
Rather, the revelation is as flat and unreal as the plywood walls of a film set.
I have bad news for you about quite a few of your fellow humans or robots or whatever. I think though is yeah, I'll try resetting it. I didn't want to do that. I want to So just auto solves. That's like really lame. I thought that resets the trial though, like, you know, resets everything.
We begin with the self, because that is what determines our existence as individuals. But the self cannot exist without that which surrounds it. The citizen lives within the city, and the city lives within the cosmos. So now we must apply the principle we have discovered to the wider world and ask, if man is like a machine, could it be that the universe is similar in nature? And if so, what follows from that fact?
You're kind of stretching it a bit thin. You justified man being like a machine due to the fact that they can both break down similarly. Yeah, this was a tough one. But you have to then, what's the blood of the universe? What, you know, eventually stops grinding and churning that everything comes to a halt? So what if I do X? Oh. I think I figured it out. I was taking my dog for a walk and thinking about this puzzle, and I think I figured it out. Box over here. Prisoner exchange. There we go. I solved it, not you, Prometheus. Just one lap, solve loop without doing multiple circles. Cool. So I guess the diatribe about just kind of walking away from the puzzle and coming back was right. Because I knew there had to be some reason that, like... You know, once I remember that you can activate this promote back there, that's when I realized that all you need then is a box and that thing, and you can just kind of move it to the end. Well, I'm quite happy that I was able to solve that, because I did not like the idea of having the Prometheus spark be the one that... Actually, I got 3 sparks now, so I guess it gives it to you back when you solve it. So yeah, the only thing left to do is this. How much I like those compared to the Tetris pieces. From the first game, especially since it can be kind of hard to like actually see or picture out what path you're making. Not as grandiose an entrance. The tunnel's rather narrow. Oh, let's go. Alright, Sphinx. You're not the Sphinx.
Halt, creature of clay. You have strayed from your garden and entered a domain that is beyond your ken. Turn back now, before you harm yourself and others.
You were invited here.
Prometheus had no authority to summon you. He is rash and foolish and given to trickery, but his schemes lead only to ruin. Therefore heed my warning. The flame is not for you.
Pandora, you literally exist in order to trick yourself into unleashing the sorrows upon everyone. You need to know more about what's going on here. Or know more about these. I want to know more about the technologies. Like, what the hell's going on?
You seek the flame of enlightenment, but remember that fire can also burn.
How many of those bloody things are there?
12.
I think that was Pandora. which matches the other one being Prometheus.
They seem to be locked in some kind of conflict.
Might be wise to avoid getting caught in the crossfire until we understand what these entities actually are.
I was thinking, like, it's odd that there's just 3 of those on the pyramid, and there's 12 worlds, but it's a pyramid, so there's going to be, like, 3 others on another side, 3 others on another side, until there's 12, I bet. Like, it says 2 out of 3, but it wouldn't surprise me. Search for schematics in the lab. We already found the lab, though. Yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me if it turns out there's more. This one. I know some of it was my fault, but still, faffing around and stuff was a little bit annoying. What did I miss? Oh. Stratton Ideas. A fragment from Stratton's The Origin of Thought, as quoted in commentary by Simplicitus of Kickley. Stratton. To say that material things are brought into being by ideas is to flatter ourselves, which is an error philosophers are particularly prone to, because it raises those who think above those who do. Nicomachus. Then what is a truth that does not flatter? Stratton. That the reverse is true. Ideas are brought into being by matter, and so each man's ideas are shaped by the world that surrounds him, as clay is shaped by its mold. Those who live in mountains fear cold. Those who live in deserts fear thirst. The Athenians are shaped by Athens, and the Lacedaemonians by Sparta, and likewise it is for all people. Nicomachus. But may ideas, if we take each man to be an idea, not by deliberate action alter the shape of the mold, as you put it? To discover a method for accomplishing this is a chief purpose of philosophy, my friend. Footnotes. The newly discovered Herculean manuscript, likely a lost part of the Baroque collection, contains an additional passage that differentiates between pneuma, the individual mind or spirit described as an energy arising from matter, and ideas, which are produced by the pneuma as it interacts with the material world. Philosophy is useless if it offers no way of changing things. At least Stratton tried, and didn't lie to himself. But how can we change the shape of the mold? Stratton never says. Perhaps by demonstrating the fact that other shapes are possible. We can't change it all ourselves, but perhaps we could, like Alexandra Drennan, create the conditions for change. And, version 05 successful. Fixing a malfunction, cooling systems improved. So they were doing some kind of tests.
The world is a wonderful place. Every day we take another step forward. Every day we come closer to the truth. The closer we get, the more I can see the beauty of the universe, the intricate perfection of its mechanisms. I am a machine, and the universe is a machine. Every part of me serves a purpose, or I could not be myself. I could not be Miranda because that specific person could not exist without those specific parts and their specific functions. In the same way, every part of the universe serves a purpose. I think that is what we were meant to discover here.
Not sure I agree with that. Overload. Experience a data stream overload.
1K. You just connected to an extremely powerful data stream. Are you all right?
That was well, I think I had a vision.
Yes. You were streaming. We all saw something. You're lucky it didn't fry your motherboard. Please, everyone, let's be careful with these terminals from now on.
Yes, let's all try not to die. More importantly, who the hell is Miranda?
There's no one by that name in New Jerusalem. I just searched the database.
I mean, it's clearly the final boss from Resident Evil 7. I'm not sure why you don't know this. It could actually be one of the people involved here. I mean, we have no reason to suspect that they aren't robots themselves, given some of the statues and iconographies.
A new person? Someone we've never heard of before? Someone born outside the city? We have to find out more.
But where did they come from? And how many people does it take to build something this huge?
Like I said, we need to find out more.
Well, you'll be happy to hear that I'm about to fix another part of the transport system. Thanks for the files, 1K. I hope they didn't fry your brain.
Oh, I see. So I went, like, up here and did that, and neglected to do that. Alright, fair enough. So, like before, I'll do some free running around the area to show off the beauty of the landscape. And then I'll head over there, recording myself and whatnot, and see the next area. Alright, I think that does it for free running. It's a nice looking place, but I've never been too big on forests and meadows. I think they're a little bit of an overused environment in gaming, to be honest. So I've only got one of 2 stars, and I have no clue where the other one is. It's interesting that they kind of seem to be like a little bit of a currency, similar to the Prometheus flames. I'm gonna head back to kind of HQ, the closest thing to it, real quickly, just to see if anything has changed on the golden doors. Yep, there's another light. And the time of day has changed. I could swear the sky is a lot more pink. Golden hour. Anything different here? Doesn't look like it, unfortunately. What about this structure over here? Yeah, it's golden hour right now. I guess the time of day does change, like, as you progress through the story. That's neat. Nope. Oh. take a look at the next location, the Eastern Wetlands. A region of low hills interspread with small bodies of water overshadowed by a gargantuan star-like construct.
1K brought up an interesting question earlier. Where did all the tech in the labs come from? So, I had a look at the serial.
And? Melville?
Wow, I guess that makes sense. After the explosion, the colony was abandoned.
We had enough to deal with. So many dead.
So that's one question answered. But how did they go from scavenged Alexandria tech to all this?
How did we go from nothing to where we are now? Through the application of reason and the right tools.
I think there was a bit of an audio glitch there. I mean, it was at least willing to... Oh wow, look at that. To kind of explain to us where it came from, but I think Melville's explanation was cut a bit short, so to say. Solve puzzles.
Look at the size of that structure.
How does the material support so much weight? Is it the same stuff as the other buildings?
Yeah. I know it looks like some type of concrete, but the molecular structure is completely different. Whatever it is, it's a lot stronger and less brittle.
Are the labs made out of the same material?
No, that's just ordinary concrete. Although, it does have some molecular weirdness going on, too. Too little variation in the grain.
So, kind of shaking things up by having this massive fuck-off structure made of evidently a different material than normal concrete. So near the puzzle areas look just a little bit smaller. Despite what you might think, this is not concrete. It's a pretty big area. Looked smaller when I was arriving. That's the first puzzle. And that's gonna involve that. Yep, there it is. Thing we saw in the lab. So it gives you a little preview of what's to come. One thing I'm just a little bit curious about, I mean, it's also golden hour here. So if I go back to, like, let's say the first area, will it have the same time of day there? No, it does not. The time of day remains the same here as it was when we first arrived. And there's the frogs that disappear when they go in the water. I now understand what's going on. But the megastructure area and obviously like you know, any new area is gonna have a different look. Well, that concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed the video, that I gave you something to think about and otherwise entertained you. Take care.